How do you feel when you get asked questions, but what does it mean for me? Or when does it need to be implemented by when you are leading a transformation, but you don't have all the answers?
This is leading through uncertainty. And if you've been through it, you know how tough it is. This is the moment when everyone looks at you, waiting for reassurance, for honesty, and for direction.
This is a leadership effect, and I'm Cathrin.
And I'm Camilla, and this is where we talk about leadership as it really is, practical and sometimes messy.
Yeah, and today we're actually talking about the hardest part of leadership, which is leading through uncertainty. We know that the world is changing constantly. The only constant that is really there is change. Reorganisations, layoffs, new technology that is coming in, and leaders are constantly asked to help people stay steady in these uncertain times. By the same time, they're feeling this.
So in this episode, we really want to cover it from two different leadership angles. So one is when you're leading or instigating the change, and then the other one is when you're implementing the change that you did not create.
Yeah, because both situations actually feel very different, and they come with very different responsibilities.
Yeah, and I mean, regardless if it's one or the other, like, we just know that change is draining, uncertainty is draining, and it's just humans. Like, we like predictability, right? So when there's things that change suddenly, we feel out of control. Our nervous system reacts, we feel anxious, we overthink, we worry, and it's kind of that fight, flight, or freeze response that kicks in, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And they talk about the change curve, right? That everyone goes through the different emotions at different times, and before they actually engage. And it feels, when they are in the bottom of this, that it's more about, oh God, they're disengaged, or they don't want to do it, they're resistant to it, they're switched off. But actually, there are none of these. They are overwhelmed most of the time because they're feeling all these different emotions, and everyone deals differently with it. And as a leader, it's not that you just in it yourself, but you have to also help everyone else to get through these emotions.
Absolutely. And the two perspectives that we talked about have slightly different things to take into consideration, right? So
absolutely.
If we start with the first one, when you're the one kind of instigating the change.
The change, yeah. Absolutely. As a senior leader, one of the things that you probably need to consider is that you are the one instigating the change. You know the context. You are more motivated to it because in the end of the day, you are the one who wants the change. So you also, therefore, have much more time to process what is going to happen. And that can actually create a gap between you and the rest of the team and the rest of the organization, because while you telling them, they are starting to process while you are miles ahead in your planning and already wrap your head around how it's going to work.
Yeah, and I do want to stop with that kind of timing and information piece that you just mentioned, right? Because you're right. Like, when you're ready to announce it, you've had all of these time to process, to figure out the answers, and all you want is just to deliver, right?
Yeah.
You just want all the things that you've been working on. You just want to implement them, just get them done.
And you're excited about it because like, oh, finally it's happening. And they've never heard about it, and then like suddenly like, what is going on? What is happening? Like, how does it impact me? What is? Yeah, and it's probably not them that get asked those questions; it's other people. But we're gonna come to that later anyway.
Yeah. So the change story is critical. So why is the change story so critical when we're in this moment?
Yeah, because. So what I always say, before you start communicating, you and your immediate team who are responsible in getting the change right, get your change story really, really crystal clear, because your job is it to connect the dots for the people in the organization. So why is this change happening? What is the problem we are trying to solve? What is the wider context? What happens if we don't change right now? And if people can't actually see the reason, they will struggle to really stay engaged through the whole part of the exchange. And especially when things get uncomfortable and layoffs are being made, people want to know what it is. And if they know, they're most of the time okay to be part of it.
Yeah, that's true. And I want to make this even more practical. So we want to talk them through kind of a simple process or framework for what to consider. So when you're bringing people through change, think about three parts. So it's your head, your heart, and your hands. And getting your change story right is the head part. But the story doesn't need to be polished. Remember that. It needs to be simple. It needs to be clear, and it needs to be repeatable. And what I mean by that is that people should be able to repeat that story to others just after hearing it, like once or twice.
Yeah. But also remember to reiterate the story more and more often, and you will have to repeat it several times, because when people hear it the first time, they don't necessarily get it the first time. So you will have to repeat it over and over in different town halls, in different communication ways, and so on and so forth. The hard part is about remembering where people are emotionally. Even if the decision is final, letting people voice their concerns is important, especially if you might not have the answer to everything yet and you don't know the outcome of yet. People need to know they are heard and they are valued throughout the whole process, because otherwise they will very quickly switch off. And I can see that currently happening in my family is they're going through a redundancy. So they're working in a company that's going through a redundancy at the same time, my siblings. And it's really hard to see because this company have never done such a redundancy part. And if they don't do it in the right way, I can see already signs of more of my siblings switching off and says like, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be part of this anymore. And they're going to go.
Yeah. And I don't know what kind of that company is not doing right or wrong, but I think back to kind of these senior leaders that are instigating the change is like you often want to speed up, right? You kind of planned everything, now let's just implement the plan. But what you need is to slow down, not speed up. So to make time for questions, to let people voice their concerns, even if you don't have all the answers.
No, you need to stay present, right?
Exactly, because you can't solve the uncertainty. You might think that you've thought through all possible scenarios when you plan the change, but there's always going to be questions that you don't know, and I think that's fine. But you need to live through that uncertainty, right?
Yeah, and give the people the same amount of time that you had to process everything and get your head around how it's going to work and what it's going to work. And don't assume they get it the first time you talked about it, or everyone will get it at the same time. And then there's a hand. And this is about the process itself. So who do you need to involve early? Which managers need which context? So they can support their team properly. Who will carry the message when you are not in the room? So all these kind of like actiony things that need to be considered when going through a change process is what is when we talk about the hand, basically.
Yeah. And actions matter probably more than the words. So what you prioritize, when you're visible, how often you communicate, don't underestimate those. Like regular updates, even if there's nothing new to share, it can be quite critical in a process like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And also be ready to adjust if someone comes really with a concern that you might not have thought of because they might be more closer to the process that you're trying to change. Listen to them. And remember, change is rarely fun to explain. And flexibility is not necessarily a weakness. Well, it's definitely not a weakness, not necessarily. It's part of being a responsible leader and trying to do the best what is for the company, because sometimes our ego can get in the way of that.
Yeah. And I think people don't need leaders who remove the uncertainty, because that's impossible. They need leaders who are willing to face it with them. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So let's kind of move on to the next scenario. So that's when you're implementing a change that you did not create, you did not instigate it. You might not have been part of all of the discussions that happened before when kind of the change process was initiated.
Yeah, and you've both been part of these changes. And it's actually a really, really tough place to be. And one of the biggest myths that I always find is you have to be the one that knows all the answers because they're managers and your team is looking up to you and wants to know what is going on, what is going to happen, how is it going to impact them. But I think for you, your role is actually to create the clarity rather than having all the answers. And as Camilla said earlier, sometimes it's about saying like, I don't know yet, but I'll find out for you, or this is what I know so far.
Yeah, and I want to share an example. So I coached a leader once who kept saying like, oh, I don't know enough to share with my team yet. I just want to wait. But the silence created rumors. So once she started sharing what she knew and what she didn't know, and then take their questions and kind of being okay with not having all the answers, trust kind of started building slowly. Because when you don't share things, people are going to think about the worst case scenario and create their own truth, right?
Yeah. It's there's a very interesting theory about kind of like how people very quickly make up their own stories in their minds and create something that is not there really, but it makes them and it helps them to explain certain things. So let's talk about what helps when you're leading a team through change that you didn't create. So the first one that is important is communicate openly. Share what you know, be clear about what you don't know yet. And most people prefer some information rather than none at all. The worst thing you can probably do is stay absolutely silent.
Yeah. And then create small anchors of stability. So if the big picture is unclear, if there's a lot of things you don't know, what do you know? What do you need to focus on this week? What is the priorities for this week? What can you continue doing? Because that, again, that can help anchor the team.
Yeah, absolutely. And the third one is encourage adaptability. Let people know it's okay to take time to adjust, to learn, and then to change course. Perfection often stops progression, meaning people want to be perfect before they change something, or they want to know every little detail before they change some of their behaviors, how they maybe go through a process. But actually, sometimes it's better to do imperfection, learn about what you adapt, than freeze completely and not move forward and just stay frozen in one position.
Yeah. And that's why it's important that communication goes both ways, right? Yeah. Because that's when the questions that people have will really surface, because change is not just about giving updates.
No.
It's really also about emotion. So it kind of back to that heart and create that space for questions, for reactions, for uncertainty. Yeah. It's uncomfortable, but it's important. And you won't be able to solve the unknown, like Cathrin said, but you can stay present with people in the discomfort. And what I want to add to that is don't be the leader who in the end of the meeting say, are there any questions? Okay, let's go.
Yeah. Oh, we've seen those.
People hate silence. And if you're willing to wait 30, even 60 seconds, I promise you someone will talk, because that's so uncomfortable. So wait and give them a chance and really show them that you do want to listen.
Yeah. There's always one extrovert will talk, find it really uncomfortable, and then suddenly talks.
Yeah, definitely.
It would be me in the room.
Probably.
But I think one of the things that is also really important to remember, that people are going through different emotions, as I said in the beginning, and there are basically not everyone is at the same time. You will find and work with people that get it, they are absolutely flexible, and see that, I want to do that, perfect. But there are people that might resist that. So you need to be really close to your people and understand where everyone is, so you can adapt your style towards them, and at the same time listen also to yourself, because you will have some emotions as well going through these changes. It's not like that you might not disagree, you might not agree with a change as well, and that can have an impact on how you react to certain things. And this is where the leadership comes really in, to be able to kind of like catch yourself in those situations.
Yeah. So we've kind of covered some things that they can do.
What are the things now?
The traps.
That they shouldn't do.
Yeah.
Like the no-goes.
Yeah. And I do want to start with one, and that's do not overpromise. You don't know what you don't know. And reassuring people, it does not, might not help. It might actually backfire. And I've experienced that. So this is many, many years ago. I worked in an organization going through a change. So they've moved some roles around. Anyway, a new leader came in to lead the department, and the first thing he said is that we set the organization now, we're not going to do any more changes. What do you think happened 4 months down the road?
Oh, there were more changes, because...
There were more changes.
It always happens.
Made processes more efficient. They outsourced things, which then impacted, the people working in that department. And he felt that his integrity was ruined. Like, I felt sorry for him because he didn't know. Like, he did not know.
Yeah.
But people, that the trust was broken.
Yeah.
Because...
And it's hard to build that up.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, absolutely. it's a hard one to do.
It is,
especially if you start new in an organization, right? You want to do the good thing and be the hero, it's easy to fall in that trap. The other one is don't avoid difficult conversation. If you have to have difficult conversation with people because they might be resisting the change too much, or they might be really disengaged, or whatever that might mean, have that difficult conversation. Don't avoid it, because in the end of the day, these difficult conversations can help the rest of the team further, but it also helps to build your integrity and trust.
It does. And then I think another one is to not be rigid. So things can change, like this example that I talked about. He was not rigid, but if you are rigid and you're not able to pivot, you're going to struggle. It's going to be very stressful. Right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I do want to share kind of a personal example, and this is also related to kind of downsizing in an organization. So when I came back from one of my mat leaves, I had to lead my team through collective consultation. And a large part of the team was impacted, and many didn't know if they had jobs. And at that time, the job market was it was hard at that time, right?
It was shit. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it was. It was. And the reality was I didn't even know if I had a role, to be honest. So I was leading other people through uncertainty, and at the same time, I was carrying my own. And I remember I was given the script that I had to use in the meeting with the team. And by all means, like do read the scripts and do follow the scripts, because there's a legal kind of reason for having those. But I practiced and I practiced and I practiced with that script to make it mine and to deliver it in as much of an empathetic way that I could, instead of reading it word by word.
And that makes a huge difference. I know I wasn't in your team at that time, but I obviously saw what was happening, because I was in a different part of the company, and I was in one of those meetings where someone read the script, very very corporate, very American, I want to say, kind of like we say this, and very much to the rule. And I know this person is normally very empathetic and very good, and that person suddenly kind of like, it felt cold. It felt like no time for negotiations, no time for flexibility, no care for us. We weren't valued as employees. It was horrible to go through. Horrible.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's hard, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can be nervous when you do these things, meaning when you need to communicate something, because it's uncomfortable for everyone in the room. But you do want to show up as a human, not just a messenger.
Yeah.
And then kind of what we did in the situation, because there was a lot of uncertainty, we set up like open team meetings that were very clear that, you know, we're going to share information, even if we don't have, we're going to take questions. And then we also introduced like these short optional check-ins. And the purpose of those was not anything information share. It was just, if you want, you drop in, because we were working remotely at the time, right?
Yeah.
So we didn't want people to feel alone.
Yeah.
And you know, also in like one-to-one conversations, like having to tell people very difficult things, like there's no role for you anymore. And, you know, it's heartbreaking. You see talents kind of go, and it's heartbreaking because there's tears and people obviously don't know what's going to happen. But again, like try to deliver that message with empathy, with presence, with respect, and kind of use your heart. Right?
Yeah. And I think this is really important messaging. Whether you are instigating a change, it always comes back to the same thing, is have clarity, be honest, acknowledging emotion, and steady the process, really. So meaning be there for them, show them what needs to be done, and just give them kind of like, what are the opportunities here as well.
Exactly. And I know we're talking a lot about emotions. Like, again, we don't want to solve things for people. Like, it's to solve the uncertainty for people. It's about being present in the moment and allowing those emotions to play out.
It's about being kind and being respectful to the person. I mean, they had a service. Some of the people might be in the company for 5, 10, 20 years. They might not know any different. And then suddenly you're made redundant, and that is hard. Like, and everyone takes it very differently. Some people see that like, oh, finally, I've got an opportunity and an excuse to get out of here. Some people will say like, oh my God, what am I going to do? How am I going to feed my family? there's so many different emotions going on, and you probably go through these emotions yourself, because as when you are in a role that was Camilla in, where you suddenly don't know, well, I'm carrying all these emotions, but I'm also carrying myself, I'm angry at the same time, then yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, it is. It is. So if you're going through a change right now, it doesn't need to be like a impact on people. It can be like there's a new process, there's a new technology. I mean, whatever type of uncertainty. In your next meeting, say what you know, what you don't know, and allow time for questions.
Yeah. Be present.
Be present.
Be present.
Be present. And tell us how it goes. Like what went well? What could have gone differently, so that other people can learn from that.
Yeah, I love that. Brilliant. But that's it for today's episode. I hope that was helpful. And we'll see you next time.
Subscribe. Connect with us on LinkedIn, and you'll find the details in the show notes. But until next time, lead with curiosity
and courage.